All right, today we're stepping out of the theoretical and right into the thick of it. It's time to put on our detective hats because we're going signal hunting. We're going to look at how experts track down those invisible culprits, the radio frequency interference that can cause some serious chaos. And just as a quick heads up, this is part 13 in our big 15-part series. So we're taking everything we've talked about so far and finally seeing how it all plays out in a real world. This is where the fun really begins. So here's our game plan. We'll start with what it means to be a signal sleuth. Then we're diving straight into two fascinating cases. First, the phantom buzz, and then something a little more intense, the channel hijacker. After that, we'll wrap it all up with the key lessons learned out in the field. You know, we've spent a lot of time on the tools and the science behind RFI, but how do you actually find a tiny disruptive signal in a huge, noisy neighborhood? That's where it stops being just science and starts becoming an art. It's all about having a method, paying attention to the little details, and, of course, having the right gear. Okay, let's open our first case file. Imagine this. A local amateur radio club is suddenly dealing with this bizarre, crippling noise. It's a mysterious buzzing sound, a real phantom on the airwaves, and it's making their hobby pretty much impossible. And we're not talking about a little bit of static here. This was a huge problem. The interference was so powerful that it was making entire radio bands completely useless. It's kind of like trying to whisper to a friend across a room while someone's blasting a rock concert right between you. That's what they were up against. So, like any good detective story, it all starts with the clues. The noise was what we call broadband, meaning it was smeared across a huge chunk of the radio spectrum. It was strong, wiping out faint signals, and it came and went. But here's the real kicker. The clue that changed everything. It got way worse during wet weather. That's a massive hint that points the investigation in one specific direction. The power lines.
So how did they track this thing down? Well, they used this brilliant strategy of starting big and getting smaller and smaller. First, they drove around the whole area with a special antenna to get a rough idea of where the noise was loudest. That narrowed it down to just a few blocks. Then it was time for boots on the ground. An investigator walked those blocks with a handheld loop antenna right under the power lines. By listening for the antenna's null, that's the spot where the signal actually disappears, they could point with incredible accuracy to one single utility pole.
And this really shows you the difference in the tools they used. The disco antenna on the truck, that was their wide net. It's perfect for quickly finding the general neighborhood where the problem is hiding. But that handheld loop antenna, that's the magnifying glass. It's all about precision. That sharp, directional null lets you zero in on the source like a laser beam. Totally different tools for totally different jobs. So what was actually on that pole causing all the ruckus? It's a fascinating thing called carbon tracking. Basically, over many years, tiny little electrical sparks can literally burn a thin path of carbon onto an insulator. Now that carbon track can conduct electricity. And remember our big clue? When it gets wet, it becomes an even better conductor, letting electricity arc across and creating a ton of radio noise. That was our phantom buzz. And here it is, the big reveal. Because the investigator pinpointed the exact pole, the utility company knew just where to look. They went up, and sure enough, they found a cracked insulator with that telltale carbon track burned right into it. They swapped it out with a new one, and boom, the phantom buzz vanished. Just like that. Case closed. Okay, let's shift gears to our second case. And believe me, the stakes on this one are a whole lot higher. We're not talking about a disrupted hobby anymore. This is about critical, life-saving communications being deliberately blocked. This is the case of the channel hijacker. The situation was incredibly serious. Fire crews started reporting that someone was stepping on their radio calls. What that means is another unauthorized signal was popping up on their main dispatch channel, literally blocking them from communicating with dispatch during emergencies. This is a massive threat to public safety.
Right away, the investigators started gathering evidence. And the content of the signal was a dead giveaway. This wasn't just static. They were hearing music, people having casual chats, even profanity. This made one thing crystal clear. They weren't hunting for a broken piece of equipment. They were hunting for a person. So they recorded everything, not just the technical details of the signal, but the audio itself as evidence.
And this is where our source material leaves us with a real cliffhanger.
The evidence is in the bag, the hunt is on, but what's the next move? Most likely, the team would set up multiple direction finding stations to try and triangulate the signal's location the next time the hijacker gets on the air. It's a real race against time. So let me ask you, what would your next move be?
So these two cases, one neatly solved and one that's an ongoing hunt, they teach us some really valuable lessons. They show us how RFI hunting works out in the wild and how you have to piece together clues to solve the puzzle. So, if we boil it all down, here's the RFI Detective's Toolkit. First, always look for patterns. Does the noise only happen when it rains or at a certain time of day? Second, start wide, then go narrow. Don't waste your time searching a whole town block by block. Third, use the right tool for the job to pinpoint the exact source. And finally, document everything. Photos, GPS coordinates, recordings. That's the evidence you need to actually get the problem fixed. And that pretty much wraps up our investigation for today. What these cases really show is that there are these invisible dramas playing out on the airwaves all around us, all the time. It really makes you think, and it leaves me with one last question for you. What invisible signals might be causing interference in your world?